I don't know if that would be a good idea. It's like having an oversized mountain lion.
Not a good idea whatsoever.
Oh, isn't that cool? It's on
Taking
the cell
photos?
phone.
Yeah, I'm live streaming the
The
Falcon.
clock
Oh, that's-
turning.
The Falcons.
That's a
they're-
bird up there,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, there is a pair of peregrine falcons that nest there every year, and there's a webcam on the nest itself
Uh-huh.
at Cal Falcons. Google Cal Falcons to see
Cal Falcons.
baby falcons, but on the corner there is one of the young.
Yeah, he's right here.
Yeah.
Right before the parapet on the left.
Yep. So they're getting ready to fly for the first time. It's
Oh, is
gonna
that
be any moment now, hopefully.
So they're fledgling. So he's gonna just kind of jump off and hopefully
Yep.
he figures it out.
Yep, that's
And he's high enough where by 10 seconds later, he'll figure it out.
yeah, pretty much. They don't have a lot of control, but they're pretty good at getting themselves slowed down enough to.
And that's
you know.
why the sign says baby falcons may be on the ground.
Yes.
So how do you know that it's right about the right time?
So peregrine falcon development is usually pretty consistent between individuals. So it's a range of about 38 days to 45 days, depending. Usually closer to the 38, 39, 40 days.
And what do you have
These
this guy?
ones, he's 43
He's
days.
43, he's a late bloomer.
So he's a late bloomer for sure.
What happens if the bell tower sounds? He'll be like, oh, no.
You know, they're used to it. They just seem to
Yeah.
ignore it. All right.
Ron, were we going to go right here? Okay, girls, come on.
Thank
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
It's Fauci or
Here you go, Dad. Here you go.
hey, buddy. I.
So we have Fauci flying around,
Here.
trying to
think-
get his brother to move, is what we think we see.
Here. Here.
But I'm not quite sure from this angle who this is that arrived.
Dad? What's I doing? What's I doing? What I doing? What? Want to play bears? With us? Daddy?
I'm going to answer questions verbally right now because we have a kid here. But Fauci went onto the ledge, and Fauci went onto the ledge late in the evening before he fledged, I think at about 6:30 p.m. And so he actually stayed overnight on the ledge before he flew, but he flew the next day at about 12:50. Yes, and we have confirmation the one that just flew in was Fauci, we believe. So Annie and Grinnell have been around most of the day, not necessarily super close to the clock tower, but they are keeping an eye on the kids and occasionally buzzing by, screaming pretty loudly, trying to encourage the young. In fact, I think I see one of the adults had both of the adults just perched on one of the ledges below, and that might mean that they're trying to get the younger ones to fly sooner than later. Yeah, do we know who's who right now?
I think the one on the tower right now is Annie. Not sure.
There were 4 on the tower just now. Annie's
Lower bell
okay. So Annie's off camera, but right below the 2 fledglings, and Grinnell just briefly landed and then flew off again.
I think Annie's visible lower right corner below the bells.
Yes, I see her. Anyways, I'm gonna keep the camera on the fledgling, or soon-to-be fledglings. But with a brother trying to get him to go and the parents both here, hopefully that means that I'll give him the motivation finally. Yes, one of the 2 on the ledge is Fauci. I believe the one on the right now.
I think so, if they haven't moved.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with the heat shimmer, but I
There's
don't...
the third fledgling.
Hang on.
You see him in the middle?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's... Can we get into... I don't think I can get this into a landscape view without having some
No.
issues, but we have all 3 brothers up here on the ledge. So I believe this one here is Fauci, And this is one of the ones that hasn't flown yet. Yeah, so someone asked where's brother number 3, so we have brother number 1, either Cocknoo or Weck. And then to the left, I was gonna pan, but okay, to the left here, this one is Fauci, we believe, and this one is Cocknoo or Weck. And yeah, we're just not quite at a good angle to get more than one at a time. Not sure if I can zoom out anymore. Oops.
Here.
Oh, is this for me? Thank you, hon.
It's her mama. I give it for her mama.
Thank you. So we don't know whether or not they'll stay in the East Bay or not. They could go, only a couple miles, remain in the Bay Area, and find a territory somewhere here. There are a lot of nice places, good buildings, and good food. But they could go a lot further. Falcons that have been hatched in the Bay Area have been found as far north as Washington, and I believe as far east as Arizona or New Mexico. But it's hard to say. We probably won't be able to find out where most of them go. So we rely on people reciting the large lettered bands, but it's half a continent that they could be on, so we don't always find them again. Sibling and parents won't share territories. Pretty much just the male and female territory holders are going to be the only falcons that are going to be able to be on the territory. They defend their territories pretty aggressively. They'll be a little gentler when it comes to getting their family to leave. But after the young are older, once fall starts, they're not going to let the young stay on. So, although Annie isn't banded, she does have a few distinguishing characteristics that are very subtle, but help us know that it is very likely that it has been Annie each year. She has some fine streaking in the breast that not all individuals have. And you can just, if you look very closely at the shape of the pattern in the face and stuff like that, there are subtle differences. So we've been keeping a close eye year to year, trying to determine if it is the same bird, and we're pretty sure it's been Annie this whole time. Yeah, do falcons mate for life? And The answer is sort of. They will attempt to stay on the same territory as long as they can. If it's a successful territory that they're able to raise chicks on, they'll stay there, and that means both members of the pair will try to stay. Now, if something happens and another individual moves in and kicks out the male or the female respectively, then the remaining member of the pair will continue being there and will likely choose to mate with the new individual, although it is the prerogative of the territory holder to kick out a potential mate that they don't feel is acceptable, but they will accept new mates if they move in and they've lost their original mate. Let's see. Yeah, someone asked about the birds on Alcatraz. The one of the females from 2019?
Yeah, 18.
2018. One of the females that hatched in 2018 ended up moving in onto Alcatraz the following year and found a mate the year after that. So in 2020, Annie and Grinnell became Grand Falcons. As the one who moved on to Alcatraz is Laurentium, aka Larry, and is doing well. Someone asked to see the one that's on the corner right now, and I'll pan over there. Yeah, that one looks like it might be. Oh yeah, good call. The one on the corner looks like it's potentially thinking about its next move. Someone asked where they're living on Alcatraz, and it's on one of the rock faces right in the middle of... Yeah, west side rock face, right in the middle of a seabird colony, apparently. And yeah, can falcons take down seagulls? And yes, they can, and that is what Larry and her mate are doing on Alcatraz. And yes, we have a question. Will we clean the roof in between, or would it be touching their nest? And we do, in the winter, go up after the fledglings have all left, and Annie and Grinnell are spending less time right at the campanile to clean out the area a bit, remove a lot of the poop and prey remains so it doesn't clog up the drains up there. And then is that touching their nest? And honestly, birds... Ooh, we got some wings out. There's a little breeze going. You gonna catch that breeze? Do it. Nope. Just cleaning our feathers again. But yeah, it's a little bit of a myth that birds will leave a nest if humans have interfered. This nest is too valuable to the peregrines to leave, and that's true for most birds that have a nest established. Who is we? So there are a bunch of us that are with the Cal Falcons group, but doing all this social media stuff and commentary is me and my husband, Sean Peterson. I'm Lynn Schofield. I'm an ornithologist with the Institute for Bird Populations. And my husband, Sean, is a PhD student at UC Berkeley as well. So it's just a group of volunteers who like falcons and want to share falcons with everyone else. Oh, what is the runway versus ledge? I think people are just calling that ledge the runway, you know. It's wider than it looks from here, and it gives them kind of a good opportunity. They'll just run back and forth on this sometimes. No, there's no relationship between Sean and the Roger Torrey Peterson of the bird guides. Let's see. Going back through questions, someone had asked, they've only seen the parents bring back birds of prey. Have they ever brought back other animals? Bird prey. Have they ever brought back other animals? And peregrine falcons mostly focus on catching flying animals. Their hunting strategy is designed for catching flying animals. That's why they're so fast, is that they're going to surprise things midair and knock them out at high speeds. And so they focus on birds and occasionally things like bats and other flying creatures. We have seen them bring rats up to the nest a couple times, which actually has worried us in the past because a peregrine falcon usually isn't going to catch a rat, but they are opportunists. If they find something easy to catch, they'll do it. But an easy to catch rat, that means might be a poisoned rat that is in poor health, and that could potentially expose the young to poison. So we don't like it when we see them catching rats. Someone asked just what do we think motivates them to finally get up onto the ledge and go? And it's hard to say. You know, they just want to explore more and more through time, and eventually, you know, their exploring will lead them through that fleur-de-lis, the little hole there, and onto the ledge. And then once there, eventually a favorable wind will catch, or they're just ready to go, or one of the siblings pushes them. But it's really hard to say what causes that final decision. What time did Cocknoo and Weck Weck jump onto the ledge?
6:16 and
6:16 in the morning and 8:16 in the morning today, respectively.
oh no, sorry, it was 7:58 for the second one.
Oh. 7:58 was the second one. Yeah, and someone's asking about the San Jose Falcons. And they just laid the eggs earlier than the campanile birds did. Annie and Grinnell have been tending to lay on the early side when it comes to peregrine falcons. Someone asked if the adults are staying near the nest when it's not breeding season. And Annie and Grinnell stay pretty close by. Their territory covers most of campus, a lot of downtown Berkeley, and up in the hills. And they don't migrate just because the Bay Area weather is very nice and they don't have to. Other individuals living in more northern latitudes or tougher climates do migrate and will be far away from their nest sites during the winters. Ah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, well, we're streaming here, and you can. It's okay. You can ask Falcon questions. I'm sure you might have questions like the ones that the people here right now have.
We felt like we saw fresh wings.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. It looks like the three just moved together over here. All right. All three brothers are together. Yes, one of them fledged a couple days ago, and the other two are dragging their feet a little bit about it, but are gonna be going any time now? Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So excited. We drove up from Monterey.
Oh,
We're coming. I went to school here. We're coming to see. Thanks
awesome,
for
yeah.
what you're doing.
Thank you. Let's see. Had a question: did the Falcons grab their prey midair? And yes, they do. They are very agile. They can grab the prey midair, and they'll also eat midair most of the time when they're not doing it. And someone asked, did we add TikTok this year? And I was hoping to add TikTok, but it just added one too many things for us to keep track of. Hopefully next year we can get that together. And I'm kicking around the idea of doing some highlight videos on TikTok, just to kind of start that up. But yeah, one too many social media platforms to keep up with. Let's see. So someone's asking here, how do they learn to fight and defend? And I think a lot of that is pretty innate, I would guess. I mean, the parents are teaching them a lot just, when it comes to how to hunt. And I think a lot of those skills do also translate into how to defend a territory. But it's a little hard to say. Let's see. Was the nest box built before the Falcons set up the territory? And we actually moved the nest box in shortly after they set up the territory. Annie had arrived on the territory and started laying eggs the first year. But there is a very slight slant on the level that the Falcons are nesting on, and the eggs had actually rolled away a little bit. So we put in the flat nest box with gravel, so that provided better drainage, more stability for the eggs, and helped her have a more successful nest in future years. And so how do they eat midair? And the answer is, I don't know, essentially they just have stuff in their talons and their feet, and they can move that forward and will pluck the prey and take meat off just while they're holding the prey in their feet and they're flying. Yeah, so someone asked, are the crows a threat for the chicks? Because from down here I can definitely see a lot of crows flying around, and the answer is yes, the crows do pose a threat. They're very aggressive towards young raptors, especially the young falcons. For the crows, the raptors are a potential predator and also a potential competitor. And so early on when they're learning to fly and not very good at defending themselves, they will go after the young, although luckily the adults work very hard to keep the crows away. And when Fauci fled, he was being harassed by crows, and Annie and Grinnell did a very good job of helping him out. Yeah, and someone asked then, do falcons hunt crows? And the answer is yes, falcons will eat crows. It's pretty hard for a falcon to catch a crow just because crows are smart, crows are agile, and crows will often, when they see a falcon, kind of gang up and spend their time trying to really distract the falcon in a group to keep the falcon from getting a chance to hunt the crows. But they've been known to do it. We've found crows up in Annie and Grinnell's nest area in the past. But it's not super common. They certainly do it, though. And yes, there is video and images of Fauci getting harassed by falcons. I'm not sure. Did we post that already?
What?
Did we post video of Fauci and Grinnell, or Fauci getting harassed by crows?
We're delayed.
Yeah, we're a little delayed when it comes to social media postings, but yes, there is video that we will share. So would the crows be a danger to Fauci? And they can be a danger. They will sometimes attempt to chase the young falcon into a window or into traffic or down onto the ground where they could potentially get hurt. And that is actually why we have the group of volunteers here on campus, just in case something like that happens. If a bird hits a window, ends up in traffic, ends up in a place where it can't function, is going to have trouble with humans. So, yeah. Yeah, so how did we know Annie set up territory here? And the answer is that we just had lunch a lot of days, exactly here where we have the camera set up now, in fact. And peregrine falcons are loud, and we started hearing them in the winter. And during the winter, birds have, hung out on campus a little bit, but they hadn't started nesting before this. But they just were hanging around into the spring, and so we knew that they were setting up a territory. And then we could tell behaviors that indicated that Annie was starting to incubate because she was only leaving the tower very rarely. So we kind of knew they were breeding just from the fact that we were watching from below regularly. All right, so any idea how far away the nearest pair of nesting falcons is? And we do know that. How far is it? 3 miles? Yeah, the closest nesting pair is 3 miles from the campanile. So that's pretty close, but a pretty normal territory size, more or less, when it comes to peregrines. All right. Could the two chicks be hesitant to fledge due to a fear of crows? That's possible. It's really hard to know what's going on.
They probably haven't experienced any crow action.
Yeah, that's true. They might not really have much prior knowledge regarding the crows. That may or may not be an issue. Someone just asked the name of our website. You can find all our info. Googling Cal Falcons will do the trick, but specifically it's calfalcons.berkeley.edu. And I'll type that one into the chat. All right, let's see.
Wait. The heads up. This dolphins are coming.
Yeah, that website I linked. If you're interested in getting a t-shirt or donating, we have links on the website that that you can find. Hang on, I'm trying to... Yeah, so donating right now, what it's being used for is to help with equipment, and we're trying to put together some curriculum about animal behavior with the Lawrence Hall of Sciences, which we're hoping will get finished pretty soon. And then we're also going to be donating binoculars to the Berkeley Public Library so people can check out binoculars and birdwatch in their backyard. Someone asked what subjects or department we're in, and are the Falcons part of the study? And Sean Peterson, my husband, he's in the Environmental Science Policy and Management department, working on a degree about wetland bird communities is his PhD project. And I'm an ornithologist for a separate nonprofit called the Institute for Bird Populations. But Cal Falcons is mostly just an educational program that we're doing as volunteers, because we love the Falcons and want other people to have, the chance to watch them too.
I mentioned their research is for UC Santa Cruz.
Oh, yeah. So the people who are doing peregrine falcon research is UC Santa Cruz's Predatory Bird Research Group. And they're the ones that have helped us band these birds and are the ones taking data about the birds. They take from falcons all over the Bay Area and all over California things like feather samples to test for mercury levels and to look at genetics and how the populations are doing, and are taking any data if people recite the falcons. And so they have an incredible data set regarding kind of falcon populations in the Bay Area over time. Let's see. I can't tell if this is charging correctly. Yes, okay. Someone's asking if we're looking at Wek-Wek right now, and I believe this is either Cocknoo or Wek-Wek, but we're not sure which. Without being able to see their leg bands, we can't tell the brothers apart since they're so similar in age and size. All three are on the balcony right now, but we can only focus on one at a time. My hope is that they'll get a little closer together so we can see them together. And especially because if they are together and interacting, they're more likely for one to push the others off the edge. Someone just mentioned that they're also watching the UMass Library chicks, because they actually just hatched because they're in a colder climate than we are, so you can see them. There are Falcon pen pals on Twitter, so we're friends with those guys, and they do great work too. Which bird is the one that hatched 2 days after the others? And it is Wek-Wek who hatched 2 days later, and so Wek-Wek has been a little more timid and a little more fluffy just because of that 2-day difference, but that difference is rapidly fading, and honestly, both Cocknoo and Wek-Wek are plenty past the time when they could be expected to fledge. And someone is asking about lifespan and survival here, and yeah, your Googling's pretty accurate. 15 years is a reasonable amount of time that a wild pair of peregrine falcons is going to survive. There have been records of older ones nesting. I think the PG&E birds nested for, one of the previous generations of PG&E birds nested for a very long time and were something closer to 20 years of age. And captive birds occasionally get a little older, but it's really variable. As you mentioned, not a lot of them get to breeding age. About 50% will make it through their first year. And then after that, only a proportion of that are going to actually find themselves a territory where they can breed. Do you have a guess, Sean, what proportion?
Once they make it through their first year, it's actually pretty high.
Yeah. Survival is pretty high after that first year, but finding a territory can be hard, and it might take them several years before they find a territory. When will they learn to hunt after fledging? And they will start learning to hunt right away. The adults do a lot to help teach them. Although the adults for the first several days will just bring them food and keep feeding them like before, they'll also do things like flying very slowly next to where the young is flying, trying to get them to catch prey out of the adult's feet. And they will start doing things like dropping prey that's already been killed so the young can try to catch it. And we'll continue to do exercises like that to help the young learn to catch food, but they'll start doing things like chasing and catching butterflies, sometimes within the first day of fledging, and will sometimes make attempts to get stuff right away. So they'll work on hunting as soon as possible. All right, someone wants to take a look at the other ones briefly. I'll move the camera. Let's see. Yeah, so over here we have one of these is Fauci and the other we don't know. It's either Cocknoo or Weck. Do we know which one's Fauci right now? I got mixed up as to who's who over there. They went back and...
It's a shell game.
Yeah. Are there any nests in Hayward?
There is a nest in Hayward.
Yeah, there is one in Hayward, but we don't know exactly where it is. So, was Weck ever in danger of not making it? There's a video that went a little viral where he fell asleep during eating and people thought he died. And the answer is no. He was a couple days younger, which is enough, just that he will seem very different from the others in development. But he was in good health the entire time. I think a lot of people have been worrying about them a lot just because, you know, people feel very connected to the birds. But he was in good health the whole time and was getting fed sufficiently the whole time. And people keep asking if we can move the camera horizontal, and we're just not really able to do that. I can try, but what ends up happening is how the camera is balanced, it just starts to sag down, and it's hard to keep on the Falcons. And someone's asking, when will they fly to the wild? So, you know, when are they going to not only learn to fly, but leave campus and go off on their own? I suspect that is what you meant. And the answer is between 1 to 2 months from now. Once they kind of have learned to hunt, they'll start moving out on their own.
Maybe longer if it's like
It can be longer. Annie and Grinnell's young have tended to stay longer than the average peregrine falcons would, and have been seen on campus as late as August still. All right. Grinnell just showed up right above where the chicks are. Let's see. So someone asked if the young will leave the nest together or one by one, and it seems like they will. I mean, obviously fledging they'll do at different times, and then as they leave the territories, they'll each leave the territory one at a time as they're kind of ready. It depends on the individual, and some do stay longer than others. All right, someone's interested in seeing back towards the corner, so I'll move back that way. Let's see, someone's asking, where's the best backyard bird watching in the Bay Area, aside from UC Berkeley campus? And there are a lot of really good bird watching places all over the Bay Area. Some of the areas in Berkeley immediately, which is the area I know the best, Cesar Chavez Park, especially in winter, can be great for seeing ducks. The Albany Bulb is a really good place to see shorebirds, especially in the winter. The Tilden has a nature area that's very good in the summer for seeing all kinds of songbirds. Let's see. I could put together, maybe if someone reminds me on social media, a list of great places for watching birds in the Bay Area. A place I'd recommend for raptor watching specifically is the Marin Headlands. Has a good place for watching raptors migrating to the south during the fall. It's on Hawk Hill is what it's called. It's right at the top of Conselman Road in the Marin Headlands, and I'd recommend checking that out in the fall. They have people doing research up there between the end of August and mid-December, I think. So I'd suggest checking that out. So someone asked, are there any rivals to Annie and Grinnell who have the same territory? And occasionally other peregrine falcons have arrived on the territory, but Annie and Grinnell will defend the territory pretty aggressively and have kicked out the outsiders pretty quickly after they've arrived at the territory, and none have stayed at the territory for a substantial amount of time. And then someone asked, is the one on the corner more likely to fledge or the two in the middle? And honestly, it's anyone's guess who's more likely to fledge. Maybe the corner has a slightly better chance because it has breezes coming from either side, which can help with the initial takeoff, but it's hard to say. All right, someone asked, where is Peregrine Fauci? And Peregrine Fauci is on the balcony here. So there's one of the juveniles. That one, I think, is Fauci. And yeah, so the two together is Fauci and one of the younger ones. Well, not younger. One of the ones that hasn't committed to flying yet. Someone asked, is Weck Weck the runt? And actually right now, Weck Weck is almost exactly the same size as the other two. Weck did hatch a couple days later, so was a little bit smaller for the first little bit of its development. Yeah. Someone asked if great horned owls are ever concerned at this nest, and we have at least once caught on camera a great horned owl coming relatively close to the campanile and Grinnell jumping immediately into action and chasing it away in the middle of the night. But for the most part, the location is not somewhere that is easily accessed by great horned owls. So it is a danger. It's, always a slight danger to pretty much any young bird, but the campanile is about the safest place from great horned owls you could be, and the adults are always vigilant against possible predators. Someone asked which is the first hatched, and it's either Fauci or Cockney, but it's hard to say. They both hatched on the same day. And while they're chicks, it's very difficult to tell them apart. So we're not sure. We just know that Weck is the one who hatched 2 days later, because that one, he's the one that was a little bit smaller for the first little bit. So are they going to, if they do go, fly before dark? And honestly, they won't fly after dark, but they have been known to occasionally make the first flights in the evening, just because the evening's kind of cool and can be breezy. But usually they're not going to fledge super late. I don't know. I'll have to ask about that particular question. Oh yeah, which adult was sleeping with all the chicks early in the evening? And that was Annie, who was in the nest box yesterday evening with the chicks. And someone asked, does the name Weck have a meaning? And it is the Miwok name for a Falcon character in their storytelling tradition, and is actually part of the story of the creation of the Bay Area and the world and the region. And we're hoping to get someone who knows these stories intimately to come and tell them for the Cal Falcons community, because it would be really wonderful to know them, and they're some really incredible stories. Someone just wants to know, generally, if I could be a bird for a day, what species would you choose? And I agree with the assessment of raven, because ravens, when you watch them, they really do seem to be having fun when they're flying. And if you're only going to be a bird for a day, I think having the opportunity to be doing some of the stunts that ravens can do, that would be incredible. Someone asked, the one on the right is Weck Weck because it has a mohawk. I can't quite see well enough to know for sure, but it is true that Weck Weck has had a slightly fluffier head than the other two. Someone's asking, how's our battery? And we brought a very large auxiliary battery for the phone. It is so far still at 34%. So we're about 2/3 of the way through on what we're going to be able to share until we can find a place with an outlet. So someone asked, are there ravens in the Bay Area? And actually, it's kind of interesting. The Bay Area is sort of unique in that we both have crows and ravens, and they interact with one another, which you don't get to see most places. So yes, we do have ravens. Someone asked, do the falcons prefer that gravelly texture for nests in the wild? And yes, they do. They like to be on rock ledges, cliff faces, stuff like that, and having a little bit of gravel where they put the eggs is useful because it lets them scrape out a little depression where the eggs can sit without rolling, and it helps with drainage. So it is pretty close to what they prefer. Yeah, so crows and ravens are different. They're within the same genus. They're both corvids is the name of the genus. Ravens are substantially bigger than crows. A raven is actually a little bit bigger than these peregrine falcons are, in fact. And they have a slightly different social structure and lifestyle. Ravens tend to be more predatory. They eat a lot of carrion, which crows will do as well, but they have a little bit less of a tendency to do that. Crows tend to be much more gregarious and spend time in really huge groups. And although ravens are social, they usually spend more time within just their pairs and immediate family group. But yeah, you can distinguish them partially by the sound they make. The caw, caw, caw we're hearing, that's crows. Ravens tend to make a very deep croaking noise. And then the ravens, if you look at their tail, it's sort of a wedge shape rather than sort of squared. So does Annie know what sex her chicks are? And yes, she probably does, just because males are a lot smaller and they're more likely to leave the nest earlier. And so she did start encouraging the chicks to leave the nest about when males would be expected to, although they're being slow. Grinnell for sure is acutely aware of the sex of his chicks because females would be significantly larger than he is, and he'll actually spend time a little further away from the nest ledge when he has female chicks versus male chicks. So how did Annie encourage them to leave the nest? She originally, and mostly what she's been up to on and off, is flying around the tower and calling loudly as a way to encourage them off. She will eventually start doing things like not providing food up on the nest ledge, although Annie's a relatively generous mother and is more tolerant of her young hanging around longer, and does feed her young longer than a lot of peregrine falcons will. We have watched other nests where the adults have more or less literally kicked the chicks off the edge. But we have not observed Annie do that ever. And someone asked, as adults, aren't falcon males and females the same size? And females are quite a bit bigger than the males. They're about a third again bigger than the male. And the reason for this, there's a few reasons, but one of the main reasons for it is so that the male and the female having a substantially different size means that they're better specialized for slightly different prey. And that gives them a greater range of possible food sources they can use when they live on the same territory together. Yeah, someone mentioned that Annie seems awfully patient with the chicks, that they've done things like grab at her feathers, and yeah, that sort of play is them practicing a little bit on jumping onto and catching prey with their mothers. So you'll also catch them doing that kind of play with each other occasionally as well. And someone asked, does Grinnell stay away because he doesn't want to mate with one of the chicks? And the answer is, really, he just stays away because he doesn't want to have to interact with a potentially food-motivated younger bird that is as big as or larger than he is, which the females especially would be. Someone asked, who are we looking at right now? We have Fauci is one of the two chicks, so the one who's already fledged, and one of the others, I don't know which of the two unfledged birds it is. Unless we can see the color bands, we can't know for sure which is which. Someone asked, is it common for a pair to produce more males than female chicks? And, oh, where did these guys go? No. We're fine. I just had a stop in the stream. And so Annie and Grinnell have produced substantially more male chicks, but sex determination in birds is not unlike sex determination in humans, for example. It's a matter of if they ended up with 2 of the sex-determining chromosomes versus 1. So it is, in theory, 50-50. It's just a coin toss, and Annie and Grinnell have just coincidentally ended up with more male chicks than female chicks. Someone just asked, do we feel bad for them when we banned them, like that they were very scared? And we try to keep the banning process very quick as possible, and it helps that falcons, for one, are just a relatively stoic species. in a lot of ways. They just stay calm because as a predator, calm is a good strategy. And they also, if their heads are covered and aren't seeing much, they stay very calm. That's why in falconry you often see hoods. So, you know, we want to limit interaction as much as possible and not harass them, but it does not appear to be an extremely stressful process. Whenever we've banded them in the past, they'll be acting normal and eating again, and the adults coming by within, you know, not a very long time. I think this year it was only about 20 minutes until mom came back and brought them food and everything was back to normal. Let's see. Someone asked if one of the chicks fledged today, and actually neither of the remaining 2 chicks that haven't fledged yet today have gone. They've just been hanging out here on the ledge pretty much all day. I'm gonna have to move the camera setup pretty quickly here because I am no longer on Wi-Fi. I'm